Bury the Lead. We review WWE Smackdown every Friday night. Thank you so much for joining. Dom, thank you so much for joining yourself. Tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Great to be back doing a Friday night Smackdown for Don't Bury the Lead. We had a great time doing the Royal Rumble, and we were anticipating something on tonight's show, and I think we got it. We at least got one really big announcement. So without further ado here, John, don't bury the lead. What's our top story after tonight's Smackdown?
Yeah. So, Roman Reigns shoots a promo in the last 10, 20 minutes or so of the show, comes out, says, everybody wants something from him, which was really good the way that he placed it, I have to say. Sort of is ranting and raving about how the bloodline's falling apart and the crowd's chanting for Sammy. And he shows up from the crowd and starts beating the hell out of Roman. They go back and forth. Sammy goes out of the ring. Or Roman spills out of the ring. Bloodline starts to jump him. And basically what it boils down to is Sami Zayn challenges Roman Reigns for the Universal title. And Roman accepts for the next pay-per-view here in Montreal.
What a venue for a Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn one-on-one battle for the world titles for both of them. I guess it's for the Universal Championship. I was hesitant to foresee this because I didn't know if Sammy was a big enough single star to be on what looks like this stage here. I think maybe youth saw this more than I did, that maybe this has to get to Roman versus Sammy eventually. I really didn't see that as the fallout, and it looks like that's the direction they're going. So I wonder if Sammy is going to be up to this in the ring. He's up to it on the mic. He's up to it on promos. The crowd loves him. He's maybe at this point the biggest babyface in the WWE. Absolutely. And Roman Reigns, I liked it when he came out tonight, he cut a heel promo. They've been doing tweener stuff for months. And tonight he came out and he did the acknowledge me, but it wasn't as, deep in the belly that he asked it from. He asked it kind of knowing that they were going to get some cheers and some boos, and he does. He gets that he gets that half and half response from the crowd, and he looks on his face underwhelmed by it. And then the crowd seems to break into a Sammy chant. So early on, the crowd wants Sammy. And Roman cuts a heel promo, like you were saying. This was heel promo. Everybody wants something from Roman. Why doesn't anybody give something back to Roman? Why don't you miserable audience members, why don't you ever give back something to Roman? And then with the hoodie on, so we can't see who it is at first, looks like he came out of the crowd. Sami Zayn jumps him from behind, gets an upper hand. Of course, Roman rebounds. And then he gets the upper hand. Now he wants a chair. And it's sort of in this interplay between the two. One guy gets the upper hand, the other gets the upper hand. Sammy with a surprise spear on Roman. That's what leads to Roman kind of rolling out of the ring underneath the bottom rope there. So a good job of making Sammy look intense. Because Sammy has not looked intense. Sammy has looked awkward and comedic and unsure of himself and like a mark trying to please his boss for months. And he only looks confident when he's surrounded by other people who are kind of, it's rubbing off on him from them. This was Sammy all alone, and we needed to see what a Sami Zayn all by himself would look like.
Mhm.
And he looks intense. He looks like he has a purpose. And I think Montreal it's 3 weeks away. It's very quick turnaround from Royal Rumble. It's
Yes,
a very quick turnaround. It's in Montreal, and of course, you can't say Montreal in the WWE without bringing up the Montreal Screwjob. So, like, all sorts of possibilities are running through my head here.
I
But
know. That's like the
Sami
show where
Zayn in a main event. Who
yeah.
who thought the Bloodline angle was going to get here? I will admit, not me.
No, I mean, he was always just sort of a comedy act. Even Roman Reigns mentioned it. He wrestled people from Jackass. It
Mhm.
almost looks like he was being. I mean, that and the Jackass people went over. So it was like this guy
Of
is gonna.
course.
He's the ultimate jobber right now. Like he's at the very bottom of the WWE. He's gonna go out occasionally, lose matches, and that'll be his career. Uh, and then they throw him in the bloodline, and this storyline's been awesome.
Mhm.
Um, I I really like the Reigns promo because there is a shred of truth to it. When you are someone at the top, like Roman Reigns is, that
Mhm.
people are always just asking something from him, and it makes it a little bit more believable that he's a heel as a result of all these people asking him all the time for all this stuff.
Mhm.
So if there's just that shred of like maybe that's the origin of his reason that he's heel, why he's evil at this point, because he's just over all these people trying to leech off of him. And the bloodline
Mhm.
kind of does in a way, you know? And even Sami Zayn is sort of like edging in a little bit. But ultimately, you know, Sami Zayn is the baby face. And that was my kind of 2 cents from it.
And good thing or bad thing that they kept Jay Uso off of this episode of SmackDown.
I think they did enough. I mean, it felt like they pressed fast forward because I thought they would like drag this out a bit more, but they're just like, yeah, Sami Zayn and Roman are in the next pay per view. I
Well,
wonder,
with no Jay, that opened the door to get right to the Sami Zayn problem,
yeah,
right?
hmm
So I think that's a good call because if you're planning Sami Zayn Roman Reigns at the next pay per view in 3 weeks, then you've got to jump right into that. You've got to go fast into that. And so I think it's a good idea to not get to the Jay question right away,
yeah. The Jay thing's weird. I have no idea what they're gonna do with that, and I don't
right?
know if they booked themselves into a hole. They're like, I don't know. We just had him walk away. We don't know
Well,
if
we
he
have to find out next week because um, the Usos have a tag title defense next week,
right.
and we'll get into that because that was I mean that has to be match of the night considering there was underwhelming stuff on here, but you know the we're going to get some sort of an answer next week. We have to.
Yes, and I thought I do have one more observation about this lead here. When we first started watching,
Mhm.
I just wanted to watch the wrestling. The storylines are usually horrific in the WWE, or they're like okay. Like I just want something simple. I want to see like do a technical breakdown of how the matches flow, the crowd's into it. And tonight, complete 180. I'm like, skip through all of these matches. I want to see storyline. So
Mhm.
kudos to them for really changing the way I'm looking at wrestling.
And it's the A storyline that's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything else is kind of really taking a back burner to this. Not even kind of. It's clearly below this bloodline story. And the bloodline storyline, it is well done. And that's the importance of getting your A storyline correct
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
making that. I mean, put the effort into it. If you're going to invest the time in it and your top talent in it, your top performers, you've got to get that storyline. It's sort of like what we were talking about. 6 days ago when we reviewed the Royal Rumble,
Mhm.
that, the end of a pay-per-view, if it's done well, can make you forget some of the problems and maybe some of the weak areas in the pay-per-view earlier in the night. And just like that closing scene of the pay-per-view, which was just fantastic. The bloodline in disarray, Kevin Owens battered and bruised, handcuffed to the ropes, Sami Zayn, the shirt literally ripped off of him as he lies in the middle of the ring. And that storyline angle can make you forget about a lot of mediocrity. And the same thing can be true here. Like the bloodline storyline is so good that in a way almost everything else can be like wrestling, can be more wrestling. And like I wish we got more wrestling on the show, but the lead was there. We had to see something from the bloodline tonight. We did.
I feel like it was almost as if though, because the ending of Royal Rumble was so crazy.
Mhm.
I typically would want to just see Gunter do a 20-minute match with anybody, and
Sure.
I'd be happy with SmackDown. But tonight was a little different because of how, what's the blow off of the Royal Rumble basically
Mhm.
is what I was really most interested in. And storyline continues to be interesting, and you know, pretty good stuff as far as the lead is concerned.
Did you expect them to spin this so quickly into Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view in Montreal? It's February 18th. I mean, I think it's the 18th of February. I mean, that's 3 weeks from the Royal Rumble. So Cody Rhodes should have been a bigger story tonight. They gave him a little vignette because he's challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And Roman kind of mentioned it in his heel promo at the end. But they're putting the road to WrestleMania on hold for a bit.
Yeah,
They're
right.
taking a detour. They're going to a rest stop, or they're taking the scenic route for a bit, or they're like, hey, let's check this out. We don't have to get to WrestleMania that quickly.
It is interesting because usually you're right. Everything is just building. It's a throwaway pay per view. Battleground. Battle.
Elimination Chambers.
Let
I mean,
me.
they keep promoting that there's going to be lots of Elimination Chamber matches, which I haven't seen before in a WWE. So I'm going to be new to that concept. But yeah, Elimination Chamber. Do you know what it's about?
It's a goofy cage match, and
Okay.
typically it's a very fast forward through pay per view. It maybe sets up a little bit more storyline for everything that happens in WrestleMania, and now they're gonna have Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns, which is
So do
interesting.
you expect more from this Elimination Chamber with tonight's announcement than you would from a normal Elimination Chamber?
This is probably the best they've built any match in years. I mean,
Okay.
at least since we've been watching any match that had storyline build up and you're looking forward to it. Yeah, this is it. This is almost too good for eliminate. Usually, again, there's a throwaway. Uh, there's a throwaway pay per view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania,
Okay.
and you could fast forward through it. Maybe you get the number one contender of the tag teams or something. I don't know, but
Since
yeah,
there wasn't a lot else on this program, can I ask you another question here?
sure.
Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. Could this have been a WrestleMania main event?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you think Sammy's at that level? So my context for WWE as we've been watching is at this point like 4 or 5 months. So I mean, Sammy's hot, but people who've been watching WWE for a long time, their memories go back farther than mine. So Sammy's hot, but like, is he? I mean, from what I've seen, we don't see a lot of Cody Rhodes, and we just see vignettes, and that's because
A
of his
lot of big
injury.
heads of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not really excited about Cody Rhodes. I wonder what other like. Are you excited for Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania?
only because I saw him a ton in AEW,
Okay.
and to a point where he was not too over when he left, and then he went to WWE, and then that was a surprise return, and the place erupted for him, and they're giving him the big push to knock off Roman. That's been, I think, the plan all along. So really, they're just
Okay.
sticking with what the plan is, and then Sami Zayn has just been super over, and I don't think that was planned. I think it just sort of happened holistically. I
Okay.
wonder.
So the Sammy thing was kind of the spontaneous development. Like this was the on-screen chemistry between the performers was so good, and the crowd got into it that they had to figure out something to do with Sammy and Roman because they do work well together. And I guess at this point we're going to see what kind of in-ring chemistry they have.
Mhm. I think, yeah, I think there could be a possibility where Sammy and Roman and Cody. I mean, that would be the dream matchup is somehow to get them in a triple threat
A
in the main
triple
event
threat at WrestleMania.
with all those guys. The the only thing is, so here's why I think Sammy is at the level to be able to face Roman at WrestleMania because they have so much trouble getting baby faces over in the WWE.
Okay.
They typically always have to turn them heel, and then they start to cheer for them when they're heel, and then they do like a face turn, but they never really come off at. They just don't cheer for a lot of people like they do for
Mhm.
Sami Zayn. The crowds aren't that hot. They're kind of bored sometimes. They try to get guys going as faces, and they always come off real hokey and cheesy. Whereas the Sami Zayn one is it feels like good chemistry between him and Roman, and you kind of wanted him to get Roman for a while.
Is that maybe why the WWE in the road to WrestleMania typically tries to get old stars to return because the nostalgia is almost instant babyface? Because you've explained to me before that WrestleMania baby faces go over at WrestleMania, so
Mhm.
you need baby faces on the show. So they were hoping Cody Rhodes would be a baby face, and he looks like he is. And surprise, maybe you have another baby face in Sammy, and we'll wait, but maybe there's a baby face in Jey Uso. So if they need baby faces, then maybe the most important thing between now and WrestleMania is building on what you said, just making sure that there are some performers, some wrestlers that the crowd is behind as baby faces and not because they're trying to be smarks and just cheer for the cool heel.
Yes. So like that's definitely part of it. I think they have trouble building faces, and they have a lot of trouble when WrestleMania rolls around. They get a bunch of celebrities. They get a bunch of
Mhm.
uh they you know Stone
Cheap
Cold Stone
pops.
Stone Cold was in the main event last year, and he's hadn't wrestled in forever, and the crowd went crazy. Don't get me wrong, but
Sure, of course.
it's always like Stone Cold or the Undertaker is always there. Triple H was always involved somehow. He's always he's always putting himself over at WrestleMania. You know, it's so funny. The guy that runs the creative. I mean, he did before. He didn't before, but he did, and he was just always going over during WrestleMania. He wrestled Sting, and he put himself over. Everybody's pretty disappointed.
Oh, that was the whole DX NWO thing that turned into a rehashing of the Monday Night Wars. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
But
then he,
and in that match, people wind up cheering for everybody.
right?
Because they're just cheering for the nostalgia. It's a nostalgia match. But I mean, you can do that down card. The top of the card, you need something now, something that's about now. WWE in 2023, not WWE 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever.
I think that's always
So,
been the knock on WWE for a while. It's just they
okay.
haven't been able to develop a lot of young talent, so they always just kind of go back to guys in their 40s and 50s that did it before, and they're like, give them $1 million, whatever ridiculous
Uh-huh.
payoff for one match. Goldberg was another guy that they had a
Okay.
bunch of. Lesnar will be there, but even though he's still around, he's still kind of like a part-time guy, you
Mhm.
know. So, anyways, that is the lead. And Dom, I left my notebook downstairs, so I'm going to take a 2-3 minute break, and this will get cut out. But we'll be right back.
Okay.
Oh well, I guess if you want, maybe. Um, okay, give us a breakdown of the four-way women's match.
Oh, you
Well, on the
oh, I gotta fill 3 minutes on that?
I don't know. You could just name the people and who won. I don't know. I'll be right back.
Sure, I'll give you a breakdown on the Elimination Chamber qualifying Fatal 4-Way. It was the final in-ring match of the night. We've got Shotzi versus Natalia versus Shayna Baszler versus Zelina Vega. And eventually, Natalia submits Zelina with a sharpshooter. So Natalia is going to the Elimination Chamber. They announced that the final four survivors from the Women's Royal Rumble have already made it into the Elimination Chamber. So Natalia joins them. There'll be another Fatal 4-Way on Raw coming up. So this is, it looks like these Fatal 4-Way qualifiers are probably, if I'm reading what the Elimination Chamber is, it's probably a good preview for an Elimination Chamber because it's just chaos with everybody active all the time.
Oh, so you don't. The Elimination Chamber is pretty unique. They
Okay.
have all these pods set up in a steel cage, and everybody's just in a pod,
Oh,
and they randomly will open the door of one of the pods, and the competitor comes out.
okay.
So people are in the pods, are shaking, they're freaking out, and then like they open the pod and then they go out. So it's like a battle royale without the entrances. Like they're just in a
Okay.
pod. They're just in a pod in the cage.
Yeah, because once you lower the cage, you can't just be opening the door for people.
I don't know what it. I don't. I think it's a gimmick match they had in a time I wasn't watching wrestling and then they brought it back. That's my only guess. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the
Okay.
origin is. The matches are usually okay. There's at least a cage involved.
Well, obviously in this Fatal 4-Way, Natalia and Shayna looked good. Um, Shotzi, all right. Zelina looked like she was just the fourth person in here. She tried to give a decent showing. At one point, did a spot off the top turnbuckle onto the floor onto I think both Shotzi and Shayna. So I mean, she got her spot in, and she took the sharpshooter and tapped out to it. So Natalia goes to the Elimination Chamber. Um, I'm becoming a Shayna Baszler fan.
Yeah.
I like her. She's good on the mic. I like her character. She's a bully and she has it down. She also works well in the ring. And from what I've been reading up on and seeing, she's a very safe wrestler for the other wrestlers to be in there with.
Okay.
Like because she knows submissions and street fights and martial arts, she's good at keeping her partner in the ring really safe. Her opponents safe in some of these moves. I was watching something like one of these compilation videos I found online of times when wrestlers did something that most fans probably wouldn't have noticed that was really good for the other people in the ring, like guys, kicking chairs and debris out of the way before a big spot hits. But they mentioned one where Shayna Baszler is supposed to do a spot with a wrestler who she's got an armbar on, but they're going to roll. And Shayna like pauses before they do the roll and just twists the other wrestler's wrist and arm because she just knows if you roll with your wrist in the wrong position, now you're going to break your arm. So she seems to me to be the kind of wrestler who you want to be in there with. Just because she can work, she can bump, she can hit you with things, and she's going to do everything she can to make the match look good, but make it so that everybody walks out.
Yeah. I agree with you for sure with Shayna. I think that she has a let's see, she has a realism to her in the ring,
Yes.
and she's very unique in her look, which a lot of these women are either blonde, model like, or big, hossy women,
Mhm.
and she is just kind of a tough looking, athletic woman.
Mhm.
And
She
she just
wears the
got to,
mouth guard like she's still doing MMA.
yeah, for me, I really like, I think she's a solid mid card wrestler
Mhm.
and kind of what you were hoping Ronda Rousey would be in the ring, but
Hmm.
never really came to fruition.
She doesn't win this one. Natalia does. A returning Natalia who also looks good. I mean, there was one spot Natalia does with Selena Vega where um, I really don't know how to describe it, but let's just say that Natalia is taking the bump and probably did all the work to even execute the move on herself.
Natalia is, I believe, ageless because she, like whenever there's she's almost like the fabulous Mola at this point. Whenever there's like some sort of mix up or some problem, like they're just kind of okay, she's the champ, whatever. She can hold the belt. People know who she is. She's been around forever. So yeah, she plays that role like she's the new Moolah. I'd have to say,
Yeah,
minus
maybe
maybe some
she
of the
gets some.
other accusations
Yeah,
that
right.
I don't think she was doing all the underlying underbelly stuff that Moolah was
All
doing.
right. So there you go. Your Elimination Chamber Women's Fatal Four-Way qualifying match maybe moves up our card a little higher than you would have expected. Are we ready to get into, say, Ricochet and Braun Strowman against Kaiser and Vinci here?
Let's talk about the best match of the night.
It
Now that
was the
I
best
talked
match of the
about
night.
the instead of the bathroom break match. Um, okay, so just from my notes here, I just said Ricochet and Braun. This is a good tag team. Uh, Ricochet can do all of the work, all the complicated stuff, and Braun can come in and just clear house and be the hot tag. So I like that aspect where Ricochet can do everything as the worker, and Braun is more of a personality and aura about him.
Hmm.
So then he tags him, he can do the hot tag and he can clear house and win. So I think it's a solid tag team and a good pairing of two different types of people. Um,
Since you brought up the pairing, were you watching? Because I was not, but I heard that this was a tag team pairing, and it seems to be very similar in that they just took two singles wrestlers who looked mismatched, but it became a pretty decent tag team. Do you have any point of comparison between Ricochet and Braun Strowman and Bryan Danielson, who I think at the time was Daniel Bryan, and Kane?
yeah. Now, I mean, those two, Daniel Bryan is a stud, and he's
Mhm.
also was a good personality at the time. I think Ricochet's obvious problem is he's a little lost on the mic and the personality. It's not really
Mhm.
there, which is okay, which is fine, honestly, for what he is. But yeah, there is that giant man and great worker. So I guess
Yeah.
that is a good comparison, actually.
Okay, I'm interested in Ricochet and Braun Strowman. I don't know if this was yet another thing where the World Cup, where these two guys were just kind of had their paths cross, and they just saw that these guys had decent chemistry, and maybe said, "Hey, let's make a tag team." And now they're getting quite a push.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah,
now getting a title shot at the Usos, presumably in 1 week.
and they got the you're a good yeah. They won this tournament and they had the opener match, which now what it seems like what they're doing is that the best match has to go on as the opener, or one of the best matches has to be the opener. So yeah, for sure, a push and the push the right people.
Mhm.
They were both in our B category, B or C, like Ricochet and Braun when we made the grades. So
When we gave the grades, yeah, Braun was in the sea of C's, and Ricochet, because he had I think because he had looked so good in a variety of matches, whether he was winning or losing, we bumped him up to a B.
Hmm.
And so yeah, this is an interesting team. I don't want to short shrift Kaiser and Vinci here because those guys perform well in the ring. Um, so let's think about some things that happened in the match. Kaiser and Vinci, obviously the heels here and doing the heel things, trying to slow down the match, trying to get their pace going. There was there were a couple things that happened. I think coming out of the first commercial, because this match went parts of 3 segments. So coming
Hmm.
out of the first commercial break, we get Ricochet's got Vinci up on his shoulders in a fireman's carry, and Ricochet shaves the top of his head. The heel usually pulls the hair. It's a standard heel move. Vinci pulls his beard to get out
Uh,
of the fireman's carry. Oh man,
that is
what just
creative.
a neat little heel move there. He can't pull his hair, so he pulls his beard. Um, and then a neat spot on the outside. While the referee is half distracted, Ricochet baits Gunther into pushing him. Just as the ref turns around, and now the ref ejects Gunther from ringside. So now we get a 2-on-2 tag team match without any extracurricular bodies at ringside. So what a neat little devious babyface move there. Uh, Almost a devious babyface move, really, to get Gunther ejected. So some neat little spots within here that made the match more interesting.
I and I love when they boot the heel manager or heel person, and the
Mhm.
ref, the crowd. It's always a cheap pop. The crowd's like, yes, they're booted him, and it
Yes.
also gives a sign like, okay, the faces have a shot, because usually it's like, usually you have the heels and they have the manager out there and they're going to do something deceptive and they'll win. But they
Mhm.
boot the heel manager. Now it's like, oh, the heels are in trouble. The
The
faces.
heels are in trouble because
Yeah.
now Gunther can't interfere or whatever.
Mhm.
Coming out of the second commercial break, um, I thought we had a neat spot. Vinci hits a brainbuster on Ricochet,
Mhm.
and Ricochet can't really kick out. Braun Strowman, fortunately, is able to grab Vinci's foot and pull him off of Ricochet to break that count. So it's not always, being able to jump in the ring and, double axe handle a guy to break up a count. Braun Strowman doing that was right place, right time, and the kind of thing that looked great on TV. I don't know how it looks to the live crowd in the arena, but it looks great on TV. 1, 2, and there's nobody coming into the ring, and whoop, there goes Vinci, under the bottom rope.
Mhm.
That's a neat spot there. Eventually, you mentioned this. Ricochet does a lot of the bumping and the working and makes a hot tag to Braun Strowman, and that's sort of our finishing sequence here. Hot tag to Braun Strowman. Eventually, he power bombs Kaiser and then tag to Ricochet, and they do this double team move, playing off the smaller man, bigger man thing, where Ricochet stands on Braun Strowman's shoulders because that's higher than the top turnbuckle,
Right.
and does a swanton bomb off of Braun Strowman's shoulders on the Kaiser for the 1, 2, 3, and this tag team that probably, maybe a little bit of serendipity here coming out of the World Cup. They're now the babyface tag team that's getting pushed. It's not the Brawling Brutes. It's not the Banger Bros. It's not Hit Row, thankfully. It's not. It's really not anyone else you could think of. It's the babyface tag team getting a push. Braun Strowman and Ricochet. We'll see how this goes. Too quick for them. Just right in as far as the build goes, and do you like how they work together? Because even the announcers tonight are saying that the Imperium is a well-oiled tag team, and Ricochet and Braun Strowman are just two singles competitors who 2, 3 months ago admitted they didn't like each other, and now they're just kind of a tag team. Have we seen them develop enough of a tag team persona and tag team chemistry? Do you think this is Do you think this is falling into place where it's believable that these guys are getting a push?
So here is my piece.
Go for it.
I have said this in previous episodes, but I'll just repeat myself. They have a weak tag division, really weak. They had Hit Row and the Viking Raiders, and we haven't seen a lot of, and a few other teams that I was just not too high on necessarily. And you know that Ricochet has done pretty well the last couple, or at least I've seen him do pretty well the last couple months, and so is Braun. So I say go for it, push him. And Jay and the Usos need dance partners. They
Mhm.
need people that can work and put on good matches. And Ricochet and Braun, I believe, would be able to do that. And they are a
Okay.
believable team that could at least face off with the Usos. The Usos have so much going on right now, too. Who knows how that's probably the most interesting thing is their dynamic. But I think they're a good team to get the push.
And is it interesting that maybe I'm reading too much into it, but they made the hot new babyface team go over for the title shot rather than the heel team go over? So does that tell you something about what to expect from the Usos next week? That the Usos are going to be working heel?
Oh yeah. Um, that whole dynamic's going to be wild. It's going to
Hmm.
be whoever they face next week. The Usos will be the story. I'm not as interested to be like, oh wow, Braun Strowman and Ricochet are facing the Usos. More like the whole bloodline story is probably going to overshadow that, which is fine.
Yes, but
Which is
there are belts involved. So can you see Braun Strowman and Ricochet having the belts for a while?
I don't think there's any chance that they'll win it next week. Only
Okay.
because they have such a long run. I don't think they would pop the belts off of them in on SmackDown.
On a
Maybe
SmackDown. Okay.
maybe they'll pop them off on in Battleground or maybe most likely WrestleMania. I don't
Okay.
they only because they're in Roman situation when whoever wins the tag titles, it's going to be nuts because they've
Hmm.
had it for so long. They've had all the tag titles, the Raw and SmackDown. They just merged them.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
have
Right.
they're holding tons of belts, the entire
Uh-huh.
bloodline. They're pretty much holding every male belt there is except for the IC title. I
Yeah.
guess
They're
there's
they're they're holding the top belts, like the World Tag Team titles and the World titles. Yeah.
yes. It's awesome. So whoever knocks them off, it probably isn't going to be on SmackDown.
Okay. Okay. Something to look for then. All right. That's good. Um.
Anything else here about Ricochet and Braun?
Uh. No. Other than I think they've done enough where they're a plausible tag team. Um. Heading for a title shot. Like you, I wonder if they've done enough building these guys and showing us enough as they work in the ring where it's plausible that they beat the Usos. I mean, really, the controversy within the bloodline might be the only reason I could see these guys going over, but the fact that they are popular baby faces makes me wonder. I mean,
Hmm.
there's some intrigue for next week, I
Yeah,
think.
and there's at least intrigue that they'll have a good match.
Yeah.
But I would not hold my breath that they're ever going to lose the belt on Smack or on cable TV. But it could happen. Um, I think that these are at least plot. They've set up Braun and Ricochet to look strong. But I do have another match I wanted to talk about, and I actually have a
Yes.
lot to say
Okay.
uh, about the Brawling Brutes
Hmm.
and the Viking Raiders. I
Okay.
actually kind of like this match,
Okay.
and I have to say I like this dude Harwood. This is the second time I've seen him. He was in the War Games match And also, he was in this match tonight, the big rugby guy.
Yeah, Ridge and Butch. So Ridge Holland is the bigger guy, obviously. Butch is the smaller guy who likes to twist people's fingers.
Oh, it's Ridge Holland. I call him Harwood. I just haven't seen a ton from him.
Mhm.
And tonight, I was pretty impressed with all his slams on these huge guys. He was getting them
Yes.
over. And I think those guys, they'll jump a little bit and they'll get you to here, but you
Hmm.
really got to get them over. And
Hmm.
he did the overhook over the head, belly to belly, which is nuts.
Yes.
And he got
Yeah.
him way over. And usually when some of these guys, they'll go to put a suplex on somebody that's huge, they just kind of barely get him over and it
Yep.
looks weak and it just doesn't really translate that well. But Rich Holland is a hoss. He's tossing these guys. So I was pretty impressed with him just from a raw athletic ability. And this is kind of maybe, JR would probably be going nuts for him because JR would always recognize athletic guys like Dr. Death was one back in the day. And
Hmm.
he'd be talking about his athletic background and all the stuff that he can do in the ring and how he's got a big future. JR likes athletic dudes. And I was pretty impressed with Holland.
Yeah,
And
I the best spot I saw from him was looked like Ibar was trying to get him up for a pile driver, and Ridge kind of kicked his legs to get out of being up in that upside down position, and then he powers out of it by it wasn't a full backdrop because he wanted to hold him there, and he basically picks up Ibar and does the old. I mean, I remember from Bobby Eaton the old Alabama Slam.
yes,
What an impressive show of strength there.
and
And
that got a pop from the crowd too. They were
it
like,
did.
"Whoa!" Because it's this huge dude, and he just bodies them. And Dom, you can't teach size.
You
You
can't. I
really
mean, you
can't.
can you can eat a lot of cheesesteaks and maybe put on some, but
You cannot.
you
That's what I kept thinking about. Poor Brutus, or excuse me, what is this? Excuse me,
Butch.
Butch. I wrote Brute. Okay, yeah, Butch. Poor Butch. He's doing really good in there. He's just tiny compared to all three of the other competitors. So when he
Yep.
gets in there, he's just a small dude, and you
Now, how
can't.
about the Viking Raiders? Because it's not just their size; they move pretty well. They're all tatted up, like tattoos everywhere, but big, round guys, thick guys, but they move pretty well. To me, it's like Bam Bam Bigelow.
Hmm. That's a great
Um,
comparison. Bam Bam, or if they're deceptively athletic. It's
yes,
I'll even say it's a comparison to and it'll be topical here, but the Philadelphia Eagles with their offensive line. They have these huge
right.
guys, but they can move around like Jason Kelsey's a huge dude, but you see him pull.
Okay.
And when the offensive lineman he pulls and he gets out in the open space, he's pretty fast. He's pushing people over. You're like, wow, this guy he's actually very athletic for a big, large dude like that. And these guys are like offensive linemen in the NFL where they're deceptively athletic. They're not just
They
big
are.
slobs. They're not like my boy Bray Wyatt, who was looking way sloppy. But we'll talk about him later.
Well,
I
we'll
think
talk
I'm
about
better
him
than
later, but I do like what we saw in this match. Butch eventually does get a spot with Ibar off the top turnbuckle where he fights out of what looks like it's going to be some sort of power bomb move off of the top, and he winds up Hurricane Ranaing Ibar off the top turnbuckle. And Ibar he's impressive. Like he had to do a lot of work on this move
oh yeah.
because of the size difference.
Hmm.
And he did an impressive somersault off that corner there and landed flat on his back, and Butch winds up getting a 2 count. Now eventually the Viking Raiders do get the win, pinning Butch after their double team move. They call it the Ragnarok.
I was actually kind of surprised. I thought because we've seen so much of these brawling brute guys in the past, and we have
Mhm.
not seen the Viking Raiders. I just assumed that they were just going to be jobbers. So I was pretty surprised they even had as long as of a match that they did, and then won. Um, I do have a couple other spots that I
Yeah,
noticed
yeah.
what I really liked. So the Sheamus punches thing and the Brawling
Yes,
Brute
the
the
10
punches.
beats of the Bowen.
That crowd was pretty dead. Not dead. It's just like a tiring time that they were out there and they
Mhm.
weren't really feeling the match. Then they start doing those punches. The crowd loves counting. And it just showed it again tonight. If you're ever lost out there and the crowd's a little dead, let's do a couple 10 punch, a 10 count punch. Let them
Yep.
go 1, 2, 3, 4. They love counting. So give them something to be interactive about. So and this is specifically too some of these matches that are so dead and the sometimes the crowd's dead. Like, do the thing that's simple enough to get them to start chanting. So
Mhm.
they did the 10 punches. I'm always a big fan of. And I do have something, and this is sort of a panhandle. I guess I'm really just sort of begging for views here by talking about this. But
Okay.
I did have a Vince sighting, and Cole was calling things incredible during this match that were pretty below average, and the crowd wasn't into it. But he would be like, "Well, that's incredible," and he would scream, and I could just hear Vince in his ear again. 'Cause he is calling things incredible that aren't incredible, and he's not feeling the crowd at all. And I just feel like that is Vince being back. I don't know. Did you? That just I did have a Vince sighting tonight, and that's the one thing I noticed.
Okay, if that resonates with you as a Vince thing, yeah, maybe Michael Cole is trying to impress the new boss that used to be the old boss that
Yeah,
may or may not become the new boss. That's the boss in some area, but maybe not in the other areas. Yeah,
Cole
maybe
has
they're just dropping into old habits again.
yeah, or he's just like subconsciously in his head, so he just
Yeah,
starts screaming when
he
the match.
screams in his own ear and then just
That's right. He's really just abusing himself at this point. Um, but yeah, so that was my Vince sighting, and I wanted to add that into this match.
there
Do you
you
have
go.
anything? Do you have anything else to add about this one here?
Only that I'm impressed with the Viking Raiders. Of the
Yeah,
tag teams they've been trying to debut recently that have kind of a gimmick that may or may not be cartoonish, the Viking Raiders look like the ones who are the best. I do like them. They seem like they can go in the ring. They're formidable. They have the size, but they're not just lumbering big guys.
you
So
know,
I like how they move. I like how they work as a tag team, and it looks like this showdown with the variations of the Brawling Brutes has some legs because post match, Viking Raiders exit the ring first, go back up the ramp, and Drew McIntyre and Sheamus come out and confront them. And now we've got another brawl. Um, so bringing that up again there. So maybe if there's some legs to this, okay, we'll see where it goes. But it at least tells me that they're not just running out of ideas for the Viking Raiders or just going to throw them away. That these guys they've shown enough so far where you could see them staying on TV, and I'm willing to see where they go because I could see them challenging for a belt,
and,
especially if the belts get split again, so that they're not just consolidated in one team. I could see them being, you know, they don't have to main event the pay per view, but how often do your tag team belts main event the pay per views? I mean, I think these guys show enough where they'd be credible in the tag team title conversation.
yeah, this was a pleasant surprise.
Mhm.
Uh, so we and this could be a nice little mid card, bottom card rivalry that you're interested in when you're watching SmackDown and you're in between. It doesn't all have to be the Bloodline. This could be something in the mid card that you can actually be interested in, which is good. Um, so I is there any other matches or vignettes or anything that you wanted to talk about? I really just wanted to touch on Do you want to talk about Sonya Deville and Charlotte at all?
We go there. That was a title match. It's been Sonya Deville wanting to get her hands on Charlotte and being given the opportunity. So it's not like this was, a big buildup for, oh, she's finally going to face Charlotte versus Sonya Deville. Like they've been beating each other up in some fashion almost every week.
Yeah, they had the tearaway brawl in the back that was a
Right.
little wonky.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of curious. I don't want to make it too hot takey, but let's do it.
Let's do it.
What do you think of Charlotte Flair? Because you've
She's
never
doing all
really
of Rick's moves.
okay.
The mannerisms, the way she starts off the match by just like running into the rope herself.
Yeah.
Like it's all Rick. She gets thrown into the corner. She flips herself upside down, runs to the adjacent corner, climbs up, except instead of getting slammed off the top rope, she actually hits the crossbody.
Yeah.
But it's a Rick thing. She does the chops. She does some other things, obviously, that Rick didn't do because it wasn't that big a deal when Rick was wrestling, like the moonsault. But she's doing a lot of Rick stuff. I mean,
Yeah, the figure
she's
four would
tall,
get the figure eight.
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Rick was never really the hulking over the other guy kind of wrestler. But
Mm-hmm.
Charlotte, even though she's thin, because she's tall, she kind of has that.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the leverage on everybody. It's why her figure eight finisher, which she used to win this match, is at least visually impressive. I don't know if that's more or less painful than just a regular leg hold. Like, does it add something because she bridges? I mean, I don't know,
She
but
looks so much like Ric Flair in a lot of different elements too, that it kind of freaks me out. It's almost
okay.
like it's almost like she's an exact twin of him in some certain way, but just a female, just younger, like with the physical build, the super bleached blonde hair, the
Mhm.
almost reddish tan, and just weird aspects of her face. You're just like, wow, that is just like a
Some of the
female version of
expressions, maybe.
yeah, some of the expressions and stuff. And
It's just slower.
yeah.
Honestly, that's one of the things I notice about, unfortunately, too many of these women's matches is it just looks like, 3/4 speed of a men's match. And it was in the fatal four way at times. It was in this at times. It's why I'm so impressed with any of the women who work quickly and can do sequences, just because it looks more like a real fight.
Hmm.
It's one of the things Liv Morgan has going for her.
Right. You know, and maybe I've said this before, but I feel like if, you know, as a woman in the ring, they have different strengths and different weaknesses than men.
Mhm.
And one of the strengths is typically flexibility. And I don't see them
Okay.
utilize that too much. Um, a great example was tonight with Charlotte Flair when she does that figure eight and she
Mhm.
bridges like that. Most of
Yes.
the guys are not going to be able to bridge
Right.
and be that flexible and
Yeah.
turn all the way back and make it look that wild.
Well,
And
she's an athlete. She does the kip up.
mhm,
And while I'm saying, yeah, it looks a lot like Rick. I mean, it's very athletic to flip yourself over as you get thrown into the corner, and then
yeah,
to scoot across the apron up to the top rope cross body. I'm not saying that she's not athletic, but there's just something about it's a little slower. The timing isn't there, and you're right. Maybe that is because she's so flexible and with her height advantage over most of her opponents, that figure eight does look good.
mhm. I'll have to say, from my perspective for this match, um, I thought it was solid and simple, but it was a little boring. And I
At
don't know,
times.
it just it. I don't know if I've seen her wrestle so many times, and she's just kind of doing the same thing, and she's not bringing much more to the table. It wasn't to me like, oh man, this is one of the best wrestlers in their company, and she should be paid like it. And it's weird that they let Sasha Banks walk because she did have some of those elements where she would have some pretty good matches. It's interesting that
Okay.
they paid Charlotte Flair, and not Sasha. Just seems like a weird
Hmm.
thing. But hey, Sasha's their champ. She came in and wrestled Ronda Rousey for 90 seconds and won the title. And
And then she's been fighting Sonya Deville every week since then.
yeah, so
So
maybe it's
maybe some of the crowd being dead is because like we've seen this.
yeah.
Like let's get Charlotte into something new and a decent programming. They're giving us, it looks like Rhea Ripley, who great job winning the Royal Rumble women's match. Um, she announced on Raw that she wants Charlotte Flair's SmackDown title. So maybe we're seeing Rhea Ripley more on SmackDown now. I hope so.
For
And
sure.
that'll be interesting because at this point, I mean, Rhea's taller, so Charlotte won't have maybe that imposing height advantage that we see over so many of them. So I'm wondering how that match is going to go. I think I need to see more out of Charlotte before I believe that, in a Rhea Ripley Charlotte Flair match, that Charlotte's the champ.
Yeah. And the stuff from Rhea Ripley in the Royal Rumble was impressive. So it would be great to see. I haven't seen anything from her, and you haven't either. And we only watch SmackDown, so it would be a good pickup for our Friday nights if we could see some Rhea Ripley.
Especially since we
So,
seem to have lost Bailey.
yeah, she's completely
Bailey
out.
is over on Raw, the role model, and is doing so much stuff on Raw now. She's got a steel cage match coming up. So yeah, we're losing Bailey, who's a great worker and great on the mic, and we're getting Rhea Ripley, who is a great worker. We'll see what she is at character development. So that's an
Yeah,
interesting shakeup.
she definitely has some wild look down for sure.
Yeah,
So and she looked good in the Royal Rumble. Uh, so maybe I'll kick it to you. Anything else you wanted to talk about with this show?
we got a vignette recapping the Pitch Black match, which was better than the match itself because it was shorter, much
Right.
shorter. So I don't. And the other thing was that they just kind of recapped it. They didn't tell us that this was going anywhere. Like I don't know any more about why I'm supposed to care about this whole Bray Wyatt build and angle now than I did a month ago.
I almost thought when I hadn't seen anything from him tonight, I was thinking, you know, Vince loves firing people in real life.
Okay.
He always will axe some talent in February, just as they're trying to cut the budget and they'll get rid of some people. I was like, I wonder if he just was like, hey, I fired this guy before. I'm back in the picture. He had a horrible match
Yeah.
against LA Knight and not at all. And LA Knight has had good matches in NXT, in the NWA, their little, their YouTube show. He's had good promos. He's really carried this whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And to see him just jobbed out like that, very, we spoke our piece about it in our last show. So I won't harp on it too much, but man, it's disappointing. But I thought, he might be gone, but they're still dragging him out and they're still talking about Dr. Howdy or Uncle Howdy or whatever. So
I need a what's next from Bray Wyatt, and this what's next has to be markedly better than what has been.
and we gave him an incomplete
Yes.
in our grading. I would say if I was going to have to give him a grade, it could be around an F. Like some of this stuff is pretty bad.
It could be C dropping to D range where if I get a good segment out of him on a TV program, I'm almost pleasantly surprised.
The Bray Wyatt stuff is great content for Jim Cornette, and that's never a good place to be.
Yeah, if you just want to just rag on the state of things, but we don't have, several hours a week where we just cover everything we've seen and go. It's, we're doing one solid show here on SmackDown.
Yeah.
I got to see more from Bray before I'm on board. And I hope the crowd doesn't turn on this. We tried mentioning it during our recap of the Royal Rumble that you mentioned that when Roman Reigns was a babyface, he was kind of shoved down the crowd's throats and the crowd got tired of it.
Yes.
Where's the threshold where the crowd gets tired of this Bray Wyatt stuff?
Yeah.
They've got to hit on something interesting besides turning off the lights and people firing up the flashlight on their phones.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be something more interesting than that to all the TV time and production effort that they're putting into this. I hope it doesn't become a situation where the crowd is turning on it and now we've got just downer segments on
Mm-hmm.
TV.
It's still something. Maybe that's why they keep the faith in it, because it is one of those elements of the show where it is unique, where they turn all the lights off and then everybody puts their cell phones out.
Sure.
Maybe that's why they're sticking. I don't know. Maybe they're
Yeah.
just. I don't know.
Worked
Maybe
for
they're
the
real
Undertaker.
know.
Worked for the Undertaker. Worked for Sting.
Sure,
It's something different.
but look at the matches Sting put on and the Undertaker. That's
Right.
the big difference. That's the
Yeah.
huge difference, is the in-ring stuff for Sting, and specifically the Undertaker late in his career against Shawn Michaels. These are really good matches.
Mhm.
Undertaker versus Mankind. Those were good matches. Undertaker versus Kane. I'm just saying, it's got to be more than the entrance.
Yeah.
Know?
Yeah.
It's got to be more than the entrance. So, yeah.
Eventually, the lights turn on and you got to put up.
The lights turn on and the entrance is over. Okay, that was 5 minutes, but we have the real match. It has to be the performance piece.
There was one little vignette, a NASCAR race between the Mysterios. They're trying to promo something that's going a NASCAR on Fox event, and I now, after seeing this, believe that pro wrestling is real and NASCAR is fake. Did you see this? Was this the fakest car driving ever? Was this the fakest race ever? I mean, the end of this where they've got, I even forget who it was who was waving the checkered flag as they slow-mo the cars crossing the finish line with Ray's car just ahead of Dominic's car. But they do it in such a way where, if this is the speed of the cars, then the guy waving the flag is waving the flag back and forth at 1,000 miles an hour. He's waving the flag faster than the cars are driving. NASCAR is fake. It's fake. I saw it tonight with my own eyes. NASCAR is fake. Bring back pro wrestling. That's real.
The real thing. I love it. I thankfully saw that what was going on and said, all right, I'm going to go make some coffee. I don't know what is happening. I know
NASCAR is fake. Coffee is real.
Coffee is real, and pro wrestling is even more so real.
Yes.
I'll tell you what. Yeah. The only thing about this segment is I should say really the Royal Rumble. I was not too high on Dominic Mysterio when he was a babyface and he was around with his dad, but now he's doing this turn and he's got like the mullet and the attitude. He's kind of pulling it off. I mean, he's cosplaying Eddie Guerrero, but he's doing a good job with it.
He bumps, he sells. He's got the character stuff down. He's passable in the right program.
Mm-hmm. He's gotten a little bit more digestible. So, and I think they were headed this way the whole time with the son and the father having a rivalry, which is the no-brainer, right? Like they should be together, they should be buddy, and then the family members turn on each other.
Now, does this mean Judgment Day is coming to SmackDown? I mean, are they going to follow Rhea Ripley here?
I don't know what the hell. I don't know what the NASCAR thing was. I don't know who that was for.
It was the promo at NASCAR race this weekend on Fox. SmackDown airs on Fox. They've got a big NASCAR event this weekend, so they
I'm
were trying to do the tie-in there. But the fact that it was, the Mysterios and Judgment Day, of all the angles to do the whole fake car racing thing with, because NASCAR is fake. Vince McMahon told me so. Um, to choose Judgment Day, I mean, are we going to see more of them on SmackDown? I don't know. That might be an interesting boost to the tag team division.
Yeah, that would be cool. I mean, I was just pretty impressed with them throughout the whole Royal Rumble. And Damian Priest was trained by the Monster Factory in South Jersey.
Oh, okay.
So
Local tie
I am
there.
I am a sap for anybody from New Jersey, from Philadelphia, that was trained, you know, 10, 15 minutes from where we're at.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Okay.
And we,
Very
yeah,
good.
we worked in that arena, met
Yes.
in that arena, that disgusting
Yes.
warehouse.
Yes. Oh, it's a big old steel warehouse with a ring in the middle and some folding chairs set up. That's pro wrestling.
It's pro wrestling, baby.
That's how you know it's real. Not like this NASCAR thing they just did.
Not not like the NASCAR thing. You might get we might have to make a whole clip out of the NASCAR's fake. Um, because there's been a lot
Judging
of
from this vignette on WWE, pro wrestling is real. NASCAR is fake.
NASCAR is it's got to be fake because I'm hearing the NFL scripted, and it's just the guys in the car. A robot can control this stuff. Come
Right?
on, you know, with all the safety precautions that have to happen now as a result, I'm sure there's a lot of automated driving. Elon's involved somehow.
So, one more thing about this show I wanted to get to.
Sure.
It's a post Royal Rumble SmackDown coming out of a huge pay per view where a lot of stuff happened. Does this show hold up overall?
Huh. Yeah. And I'm going to say yeah because I was so anxious to see what would happen with the bloodline, and that angle continues to deliver. So that's drugging enough so much. And even revisiting some of the matches because I was kind of just taking notes and more anxious for that storyline to hit, but just taking notes for some of the stuff they have set up with the Brawling Brutes and the Brawling Brutes, the Ricochet and Braun as well in the tags division seemed to get a bit of a bump tonight, and I think that was at least passable for a SmackDown. And then the main event obviously was very good. So
Are
I
we
would
getting
say
too many U-shaped SmackDowns? And by that I mean
opener.
High, this trough, and then closer.
There's quite the trough.
Are we
Sometimes.
getting too many U-shape? I'll try to do it in front of my camera. Are we getting too many U-shaped SmackDowns?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're don't bury the lead, so I'm very concerned with the main event all the time.
Sure.
Um,
So it's good
so
that the last thing that they give us before going off air has been good. The
mhm.
opener has been good to keep us, to at least tell us, hey, we feel good about turning it on. But is there too much of a drop off in the middle of these shows?
Yeah, at the last couple weeks for sure. Specifically, I think we had Ricochet versus Gunter in the middle, and that was a banger. Met a couple weeks ago, and since then it just has been a lot of build up and developing into Royal Rumble. And then tonight was, fluff. You've got the NASCAR thing, you've got the Cody Rhodes vignettes. Got to go. I either want to see them or I don't know. I kind of feel like I get it. He's injured. He's back. But I guess they're really trying to build him. But it's just a vignette.
The vignettes are kind of like a wrestler's entrance, aren't they? Like, okay, we get you. There's the entrance, but now that you supposedly can wrestle again, let's see you live on the air.
And if they're trying to build Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns in for the main event and WrestleMania, I think he's got to be on both shows, just like Roman's on both shows. But
Yeah, to that extent, we'll see if we get him on a SmackDown, because we haven't seen him live on a SmackDown yet, have we? I
no.
mean, yes, he was hurt, but we haven't seen him on a SmackDown since he's been back. So that'll be interesting to see, because right now, this to me coming out of the pay-per-view was, I don't want to say it's a letdown show, but it's definitely sort of a detour from where I thought they were going. It's the road to WrestleMania is, for at least a few weeks, really the road to Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think this is different. I mean, how different is this? I mean, is it usually like once Royal Rumble's over, they're banging going after WrestleMania, or did they sometimes slow play the poker hand?
They go right to WrestleMania, and it's usually they had another pay-per-view before this what is this called? Battleground or
Elimination Chamber? Is there
Elimination?
another one in March? Or no? Probably not another one in
No.
March.
There's one in between, and they used to call it Fastlane because it's on the road to WrestleMania in between,
Okay,
and they
there
called
you
it
go.
Fast Lane, and it was like the Fast Lane to WrestleMania, and nothing would ever happen in the show. But yeah, so you're kind of
Well,
getting a crowd. I mean, pretty ridiculous. They're gonna pull the trigger on the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns rivalry, which has completely legitimized the throwaway pay per view to a point where I'm like, okay, awesome. I'll watch this in 3 weeks for sure.
yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in the road to Elimination Chamber,
Right?
which I
Yeah.
didn't know was a thing before tonight's SmackDown.
Right. Right. All right, Dom. We're coming on hour and 12 minutes. We're kind of doing a.
I think it's we can go home at this point. Is the building up of the intermediate pay-per-view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, is this to maybe make the WWE look better from a business standpoint as they're going into renegotiating broadcast rights and possibly selling the company? Is not overlooking everything until WrestleMania, trying to maybe boost the product that it's more than a two-trick pony, Royal Rumble and WrestleMania?
I mean, it feels like they have one too many pay per views that they're trying to cram in typically, and
The
they'll do
fall
like
was like that very much.
yeah. So I wish they wouldn't, but it's got to be a business decision between them and Peacock. And Peacock's like, we want, you know, 8 pay-per-views or however many there are, and only a couple of them matter. WrestleMania, Money in the Bank, I really like actually.
Okay.
Royal Rumble, and then SummerSlam.
SummerSlam. And we got a pretty good Survivor Series this fall, but it was so quickly after Crown Jewel and Extreme Rules.
Right? Yeah.
There were
I mean,
three
Extreme
pay-per-views
Rules
in
is
less than 2 months.
yes, it's too many pay-per-views. But what are you gonna do? I wish they wouldn't do so many. I don't really understand it, and it really kind of hamstrings the creative process because you'd like to see some of the stuff build a little faster. And you even said it tonight. They kind of pushed the Sami Zayn Roman Reigns thing like over the edge. It's like, oh yeah, 3 weeks is happening. It's like, oh wow, okay, these guys are wrestling after a year build or 6 months build.
By an interesting twist of fate here, did we get lucky that the Sami Zayn thing was so hot that it became, yeah, let's make this a main event at our intermediate pay-per-view between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. And basically Elimination Chamber is a big deal. They always say, is it the man who makes history, or is it history who makes the man? Is it the pay-per-view that makes this match, or is it this match that suddenly makes the pay-per-view a big deal?
Right.
I think it's the man making history here. I think Sami Zayn was so hot working with Roman that it now becomes an interesting pay-per-view rather than, oh yeah, Elimination Chamber is coming up. This is going to be fantastic. I wonder who's in the main event.
I would. Yeah, right. It actually gives some legitimacy to Elimination Chamber. All right, Dom. Well, thanks so much for joining everyone tonight. We really appreciate it. Subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends, tell your family. This has been a lot of fun. We're keeping the momentum going here. We missed last Friday, but we did a Royal Rumble show. Going to try to get one more video about Royal Rumble out as well, and
A
we'll
lot
have
of good content from there. That was a interesting pay-per-view, great finish.
Mm-hmm. And I feel a lot better tonight because it was late when we shot that. I was feeling
It
like
was
loopy.
great.
I think I hit end at 1:30 in the morning and was like, whoa.
Sure. Yeah, it was a 4-hour pay-per-view instead of a 2-hour SmackDown.
Right. All right.
That
Well,
matters.
yes, that's a big aspect to it. Dom, thanks so much for joining as always. I appreciate it. Have a great night, everybody.